Yo, Ryan Hart here. Welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast channel. These are the interview sessions where I put my curious questions to inspiring people with one goal in mind, to help you be better than you were yesterday in your heart and in your mind. While you're here spending time with us, I'd love it if you subscribed, leave a like, or maybe drop a comment below with letting us know some of your thoughts on the interview. Please do share it with someone that you'd love to help be better too. Matt, I'm so glad you're on the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. Welcome, my friend.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Where are you in the world at the moment?
Hermosa Beach in sunny California.
Oh, man, so envious. I'm so envious. We're
I don't know.
in the middle of winter here.
Maybe not. It's been a little weird over the past year, but I mean, yeah, it's definitely a good place to be stuck in quarantine and all that. It's, got the beach like a block away, so definitely no complaints.
Yeah, and you're not a native Californian?
Well, kind of yes and no. I was born here, but I grew up in Australia. So I lived in Sydney, Australia until I was about 14. Moved back to California, went to high school here, left high school, went to London, actually studied in London for a year, right there in the university in London, and then left again, and then moved back to Australia for university. So I've kind of been all over the place. So kind of, I guess, a native Californian by way of everywhere else.
I love that. I'm sure we're going to get talking about your new project and the thing that you're pursuing. But before we get to that, I'd just love to hear a bit more about your story. I'd love to know kind of a bit more about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, yeah. So I guess to start off, born in California, moved to Australia. So I always kind of had like a real weird, or not weird, but I guess unique perspective, just growing up, and then also spending time in London, especially around the sports, especially as a kid, just playing multiple different sports and growing up in Australia, played a lot of rugby, and then coming to the U.S., getting into a lot of the more kind of traditional U.S. sports. Played a lot of basketball as a kid too, and then I guess that as I got older and older and older and finished high school, wasn't really quite sure what to do, and that's why I went to London. So I actually did just a liberal arts degree. So I kind of did a little bit of everything. Studied a lot of, I guess, the humanities, social studies, art, and stuff like that in London, which I absolutely loved. Then moved back to Australia when I was 19. And then my local university had a rugby team as well. So I started playing with that with, the hopes just keep moving my way up the ranks. And so I started with the club team, and then I was able to practice with the local, I guess, semi-pro team at that level. And that was kind of my goal and dream is, just to be a professional athlete and take that as far as I could. Unfortunately, we were like a week after my 21st birthday, I broke my ankle like really, really badly. So that pretty much kind of, derailed any type of career that I was looking for. But I know I wanted to stay around that kind of, I guess, environment, people that just want to be the best in the world at whatever it is that they're doing. So then that's what kind of led me into, I guess, well, with my own ankle injury, obviously got into a lot of the rehab side of things, trying to get myself back, at the time, especially, being only 21, I was like, oh, I'm going to come back, I'm still going to play, still going to have a career, and just didn't really quite get there. Just could never really quite rehab, I guess, effectively or properly. And so that was what really kind of steered me towards getting stuck into the research side of things. As a sports scientist, I was already doing my bachelor's degree at the time, which was in sport and exercise science. So I kind of just went full bore into that, with the mindset of, I'm still, one of the most competitive people that I know. And I knew, okay, well, if I'm not going to compete and be an athlete, well, I still want to be around that environment. So I'm going to get into coaching, and I want to be the best possible coach. Of course, me, just my attitude, I want to be the best coach on the face of the planet. It's not really something that's measurable, of course, but, that's always kind of, I guess, my goal and intent, is that, like, if I'm not going to be the best, I want to be around the best. And so that kind of led me towards my career that now I've been doing for just a bit over 10 years now. And I've been fortunate just to work with some really amazing athletes, coaches, and different opportunities around the world. So worked with a little bit of rugby, quite a lot of American college football and NFL. I've done a bit of consulting for the NFL over the years. And then one of my first loves, which was mixed martial arts. And that's what kind of really got me into the full contact side of sports back when I was a kid, especially growing up in two different places. So in Sydney, I was in Sydney, Australia, right when September 11 happened back in 2003. And the area that I was in was quite heavily populated by Muslims and things like that. So I got pretty heavily bullied at the time, only being like 12, 13, 14 years old. And I think that was kind of one of the reasons what made me want to move to the US. And I got stuck in a mixed martial arts. And, again, that was my attitude. I'm going to be a pro fighter. I'm going to be a pro fighter. Nothing else matters. And so pretty much from like 17, 18, 19 1920 before I moved back to Australia was just all mixed martial arts. So I've kind of gone back and forth between, like I said, Australia and the US with a number of different sports and opportunities, whether it would be actually in the research. So I was doing a PhD, and I've got a couple studies that were published back in the day, and kind of was like, saw that I was like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, just being stuck in a lab with, no windows, and I'm just crunching data and analyzing numbers all day long. I was like, I want to get more into the coaching side of things. And so that's why I started kind of steering myself more towards, like I said, the functional, training side of things, the rehab side of things, and then really just kind of trying to pave a way or a career that, kind of really, I guess, encompasses both. And then, of course, the massive, psychology behind that as well, dealing with athletes, have extreme injuries and then trying to get them back, back to playing or competing or whatever it might be. So just kind of taking, I guess, those life lessons that I had, things that I had learned from the phenomenal coaches that I have had, on and off throughout my career. And then you're kind of using that to kind of tailor my own career as a coach now, being able to give that advice to, not only athletes, but like students, clients, members. I mean, I've been in the fitness industry, in so many different shapes and forms now over the last 10 years. A lot of my friends always make the joke, it's like every year I start getting itchy feet. It's like I can't stay in one place for too long. It's people always ask me where I'm from, and I have such a hard time answering that question because it's like I want to, just instinctually answer like I'm from Earth, like I'm just a person here that, I'm stuck in this body and this is what I can do with it. So I just want to, travel around and share as much as possible. So I guess that's kind of it in a nutshell from beginning to end, a long story short.
Yeah, no, mate, I'm going to dive into there's a number of things I want to know about. And you've shared recently around the magnetic field of the heart. And, where's your head, where's your mind, heart and mind going with that type of information? Is that informing some of the ways you show up?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of funny. So I guess not to use the word conspiracy theorist, but just because it's such a topical word right now, a lot of friends and people that I've known over the years have always labeled me as that. But the funny part is that it's really, I'm just ahead of my time, so to speak. And I don't know what it is. Just, again, I think it's, a very unique upbringing that I had, and being, raised in so many different environments and kind of being able to see things from a different perspective and connect dots that a lot of people might not be able to connect. For example, like right off the top of my head, if I only went to high school in the U.S., I would only have one kind of channel of education. But because I went to school in Australia as well, I have an outside of the U.S. perspective as well. And then also spending that time studying in London too. So I guess to answer your question, I got into, or I came across, I'll go all the way back. I read a book called Rise of the Superman by Stephen Kotler back in, I want to say 2014 or 2015. And it was kind of right as I was just starting to work with some junior Olympian Australian like ski and snowboarders, of course. So I got heavy into this concept of flow and what exactly is flow. How do we get into flow? And then, of course, me being, a coach and wannabe athlete type of thing, it was like, okay, how can we learn the skills and strategies to get into flow quicker and how to stay there, right? Because then it's going to lead to optimal performance, and whether it's, sporting performance or just day-to-day performance. So I came across, I read that book, and then it really got me stuck in a flow and researching flow and a lot of the neuroscience behind flow and stuff like that. And I came across an outfit or a company called the Heart Math Institute. And a friend of mine was doing a bit of research with him back at the time. He's a functional nutritionist, so kind of taking a look at nutrition in a whole kind of holistic approach, which again doesn't really follow the mainstream trends. So I came across Heart Math Institute, and the Heart Math Institute is all about what's called coherence. So getting your heart into a state of what's called coherence. So that's kind of combining like your breath work, with your heart rate and different things like that. And you can actually control your heart rate with the right type of breathing. So I kind of went down a whole rabbit hole of that. I also got into in with a company called XPT. It's called Extreme Performance Training, where they actually certify people to be able to learn a lot of these breathing and recovery techniques and then be able to coach it. That was created by a guy named Laird Hamilton, a big wave surfer, who was actually mentioned. And there's this whole big old chapter in Rise of the Superman by Stephen Kotler about Laird Hamilton. And, because those guys, big wave surfing, it's kind of, I always laugh, and it's like, it's another step further than full contact athletes, right? Rugby, MMA, stuff like that. It's high risk, it's high stress. But at the end of the day, you're not going to die, right? Like you're going to get tackled really hard. You might break a bone. You're going to have an injury. Whereas these action sport guys, and especially these little kids I was working with, you see them, go down a hill and hit a 40-foot jump, and they're spinning around 6 times in the air and landing. It's like if they're off by like a millimeter, or if it's such a higher risk compared to the full contact kind of sports that I had been involved with. So it just
Mm.
opened up this whole kind of Pandora's box for me about like this next level of stuff. And again, it's, I always want to be the best in the world. So it's like, all right,
Yeah.
if we can take the things that guys like these, guys like Laird Hamilton, these other big wave surfers and extreme sport athletes are doing, if we can
Mm.
apply that to other sports and then, just into mainstream, general population, everyday things, it's like, man, there's so much that we can learn. So that's
Yeah.
really where I kind of got into the heart math and understanding the magnetic field around the heart and, different types of things like that. Again, I wouldn't call I wouldn't call myself an expert in that field, but it's definitely something that I'm interested in, something that, I've spent a number of years now just kind of picking up things along the way. I would love to learn more about it. I was even looking at doing a master's degree in neuroscience at one point, just because I'm a big old nerd and geek at heart. So I just love, kind of like seeing this stuff. And then, here we are now, 2021, after that, quite a wild year that we had in 2020, and
Yep.
seeing all these people now start, talking about, the heart field and the heart and all of this stuff. And it's like, yeah, okay, going back to me being a conspiracy theorist, I was talking about this shit 6-7 years ago, and nobody wanted, everyone thought I was crazy. And now it's like, it's starting to come, to the mainstream. So I love
Yeah.
it. I'm excited about it. So it's like, cool, here's what I know. What else can we learn type of thing. I get
Yeah.
super hyped up on it. So I hope that answers your question. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into heart math and learning more about it. And then of course that, opens up a whole other rabbit hole into, the world of, quantum physics and quantum healing. And like, again, I'm just geeking out over here.
Time space dimensions. Yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just dipping my toe into becoming supernatural with Joe Dispenza, and
Okay.
so
Yeah.
I'm just starting to learn some of the phrases and heart coherence. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I've just interviewed a guy called Clyde Brolin, who wrote a book called In the Zone, which is all about that in
Oh,
the
wow.
flow state by high performing athletes. He was inspired by Ayrton Senna back in the 80s,
Okay.
and he describes Travis Pastrana, his double backflip, those pursuit of the oh shit I'm gonna die moments, and which is one thing, putting yourself in that state where time slows down and all that. But how do you coach that stuff?
Yeah, well, I guess that's, the $64,000 question. I'm still
Yeah.
trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, and that's what becomes really hard with like a lot of the breathing techniques and the heart coherence and all
Mm.
that stuff. It's like I'm understanding it, but to get somebody else to understand it, oh man, that can be so hard. I mean, even big time professional athletes, a lot of these guys, don't necessarily have, like the level of education. Some of these guys didn't even graduate high school. So it's like
Mm.
the hard part in coaching, becomes how do we get these really, really complex strategies, science and stuff like that into, or how do we get it, I guess into a formula or list of instructions, so to speak, for
Mm-hmm.
athletes to be able to understand. I guess that's the biggest, hardest thing. A lot of times, just having people aware of their breathing. So I still coach, a couple classes a day now at a fitness studio right here around the corner. And after every class, the first thing that we do is, once everyone's done, jump down, lay down, and let's start doing some recovery breathing. And just trying
Mm.
to get everybody to understand, like, put your hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. The hand on your belly should be rising and lowering higher than the hand on your heart, so that way you're not chest breathing, you're not
Mm.
shallow breathing, you can
Mm.
actually use your diaphragm and things like
Mm.
that. So again, it can be quite difficult. I think that's one of the biggest challenges I'm always kind of coming across is getting a lot of this information into a way that other people can understand. And that can always be
Mm.
the hardest thing about coaching, especially myself. I've been at university and studying this stuff for 10 plus years. So like I can get a great understanding of it very quickly, but then being able to apply that to a member or an athlete or a client or something like that can be quite difficult.
Mm. I think with being a coach as well, like I heard a phrase like you imitate until you can innovate. And I guess how has your 10 to 12 years in the industry really shaped some of your principles that you use now?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I think just even a couple months ago, I had a friend ask me, like, when did your principles change? And I find that that's a very interesting question. I don't, I want to say, and, maybe I'm a little wrong, but I don't think my principles really have changed.
Mm.
My methods have definitely changed, but my principle, as a coach is always do no harm. I don't want to hurt my athletes at all, period.
Mm.
And then preventing injuries, there's a lot of research come out back around 2009, 10, 11, 12 about injury prevention. A lot of people think that, it's not possible to prevent injuries. A lot of people like myself think it absolutely is possible
Mm.
to prevent injuries, and just kind of taking those principles and developing them and improving the method. So I want to say
Mhm.
my principles, so to speak, have never really changed. I've always kind of held my core values. You know, I'm saying with us as human beings, right? Like we're always changing and going through new experiences, things like that. But, you know, if you hold things like, you know, honesty and integrity and stuff like that, you know, near and dear, then everything else is going to change around that. But those core principles are going to stay
Mhm.
the same. So I guess my principles around coaching have always been the same, but my methods have changed. I mean, I couldn't even tell you how many times. You know, I even look back at some of the research that I did myself, and I'm like, oh, I was a little off there. You know, but that's the beauty of science, right? And this
Yep.
is something I'm really trying to get people to understand in 2020 and 2021 is that science is just a method of investigation. That's it. It's not a
Mm.
belief
Mhm.
system.
Mm.
It's not a thing that you can believe or disbelieve. You know, if you don't believe the sun's going to come up in the morning because we're on a flat earth, well, sorry, but guess what, the sun's still coming up tomorrow.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it's like things like that. So that's what I really love about science is that, you know, we're constantly just improving and improving and taking
Mm.
things that we've done in the past and then looking at how we can improve that, or, you know, shed more light on a specific topic. So I guess my own specific research was really just geared around like, hey, I know this and I've seen this, and I was I was fortunate enough to do an internship at Stanford University back in 2011, which really kind of shaped, I guess, my philosophy around training and injury prevention and rehab and things like
Mm.
that. So that kind of molded my core principles. And then at the research, we just wanted to do, or sorry, with our research, we wanted to basically prove that all of that was happening. And so it's like the coach that I learned under, he'd been doing it for the past 10 years. His name's Shannon Turley. There's an article that you can look up in the New York Times that credits him with decreasing the football team's rate of injuries by 86%
Mm.
over the course of 6 years, which, you know, in any full contact sport is absolutely unheard of. Like, imagine taking the All Blacks and saying, like, you know, if you give me the time and resources and I can implement the system over the next 5 to 6 years, I can significantly and drastically reduce the amount of injuries that they're getting. And that's
Mhm.
something now it's like, you know, with my hand on my heart, I know we can do that anywhere, anytime. It's just getting the resources, getting the backing and stuff like that. But anyways, that's another topic of conversation, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And as an American Australian, what are your feelings towards the All Blacks?
I love them. They're my favorite team on the face of the earth. I mean, they're the best.
Same.
They're the best at the highest pinnacle. Again, I want to be around the
Mhm.
best in the world, you know. So it's
I
like
love
that.
that.
There nobody gets better than them. And that's, you know, that's as an Australian, you know, all my friends in Australia hate me for, you know, oh,
Yeah.
I'm a traitor and I don't like the Wallabies. But sorry, but the Wallabies, you know, the Wallabies are perennial chokers. You know, they build
Mm.
themselves up, they get themselves to a great point, and then they just don't kick over to that next, you know, category. Whereas like the All Blacks, that's a dynasty. So, you know, anybody
Mm.
in any professional sport and any professional sport organization that I've worked in, I've always tried to, you know, start implementing, you know, different types of culture from the All Blacks. And it's something I'm constantly reading and researching. And a few of my old coaches that are still in New Zealand, they've got experience with the All Blacks
Yep.
and stuff like that. So yeah, it's cool. Actually, on that note, last year I was working with the San Diego Legion here in the MLR, which is a
Mhm.
Major League Rugby in the U.S. And Nonu was on the team. So I mean, you know, just hanging out with that guy, just talking to him, just watching, you know, and me, we're kind of watching it, you know, like as a coach, just noticing things that other people wouldn't notice. But you know, it's like he'd always come to training and just got these little kind of quirks and habits. And you know,
Mm.
at the end of his workout, he's always got his little bag with his supplements and his protein shake and just like little things like that. That, you know, a lot of the rookies on the team, they're probably not even noticing. But it's like, well, that's why, you know, he is the Michael Jordan of rugby. He's one of the best in the
Mm.
world, and he's still, you know, however old he is, and he's still playing at the highest level. You know, it's like, so it's like little things like that. And again, that just to me is part of that like winning culture. And so yeah, I guess
Yeah.
I love the All Blacks because they emulate that. And the
Yeah.
biggest thing is too, it's not just on field either. And that's always been something for me that I hold near and dear to my heart is as a coach, it's like, yes, I want to win games or I want to win this, but what I'm really trying to do is change or affect, you know, this young man or this young girl's
Mm.
life for the greater good. You know, it's we can take, you know, sports just a vehicle at the end of the day for myself. You know, it's we can take lessons from sport and apply it to everyday life. So I guess that's really for me like the ultimate goal. So any kid that I've
Yeah.
coached, it's like I don't care if that kid goes on to, you know, win a game or win the world championship. That essentially that's up to that kid.
Yep.
But here's things that I can do and teach, or, you know, essentially is going to help that child or help that person, you know, throughout the rest of their life. You know, especially
Mm.
we get into, you know, like the performance thing or stress management. A lot of this stuff, it's like humans just need to do this and more humans need to do it. You know, this is not just for world professional athletes. So I think
Mm.
that's kind of something I've really tried to work on and focus on throughout my career too.
I love that. I love that. The All Blacks have a phrase: "Better people make better All Blacks," and I guess you're building better
100%,
people.
100%, 100%.
I love that. I love the fact that you talk about wanting to be the best or surround yourself with the best. And I think this week, one of the best to ever do CrossFit retired. Matt Fraser is retired. What are your thoughts on Matt Fraser?
I'm honestly not the biggest CrossFit guy. Like I do
Mhm.
obviously know about it. It's just not, I guess, there's so many sports out there in the world, and I've just kind of focused on the sports that I've paid attention to. So like I do know a bit about CrossFit. I know a lot of people that do it and have done it, and I know a few of the big names, but I mean outside of that, that's probably where my knowledge ends.
Who is someone that you look up to and respect and admire for being one of the best to ever do what they do?
Cool. I mean, I guess Nonu, because I just said his name. He was like one of my favorites growing up as a kid. Guys like
Yeah.
Michael Jordan. I mean, in the MMA world, it's a little debatable, but guys like Conor McGregor. I mean, he kind of encompasses the whole showmanship of mixed martial arts, and was really one of the first to kind of change the game in that. And at the time, as he started coming up, because I started doing MMA when I was 15, so this is back in 2003 when it was pretty much illegal. And a lot of the guys that I was training with and some of my coaches, the only way that they could fight was going down in Mexico and, fighting in, bare knuckle in a chicken coop illegally. So to kind of see how the sport's changed now, and then really, I guess Conor was a blessing and a curse. A lot of the traditionalists say, he just hyped himself up, but what he did was bring so many more eyes to the sport. You can't really deny his impact on, MMA or UFC as a whole. Plus being the first guy to have, championships in multiple divisions, he was great. But then even you can go further back, a lot of, Cub Swanson, he was always a big time guy that I looked out for when I was younger. Chuck Liddell, some of those kind of first timer guys in the UFC back again, way before it was mainstream or popular. So they're just, I guess, some of the names that I think off the top of my head. And then for the most part, it's like just people that I know that I've coached, that I know like on a personal level, and you get to know them like as a human being rather than, this big bravado or, this ego that you see, advertised on TV and stuff like that. So, I mean, a number of different NFL players that I worked with at college that are still playing today. Andrew Luck, who was, arguably one of the best college quarterbacks ever. He was just an awesome dude, super humble. Every time me and him had the opportunity to talk, he was more interested in asking me questions about Australia and growing up in Australia than I was, talking to him about being football. Just, I think actually there's a video clip too of me and him on the sideline, all the games. All right. The defense is on the field, quarterbacks, taking a little bit of a break, taking a water break. And I'm sitting there teaching him how to throw an American ball like a rugby ball. And it was somehow somebody caught it on film, like the ESPN camera saw it. So you just see this tiny, tiny little intern dude sitting there throwing his ball to Andrew Luck. So, and again, Andrew, just seeing the habits that he had is, that's why he was just, another level above everybody else. And then some of the players that he played with, they're still in the NFL now, and it's, that was nearly 10 years ago now, so it's just like you got to be good at what you do to be in the NFL for that long. I think it's like average career is like 3 years or something. So any of the guys that are still out there, still playing, like it's cool to see. It's cool to see how they go from college into that, career and just keep dominating at such a high level. So that's just a few names off the top of my head.
What's your prediction for the Super Bowl?
I got to go with the young guy, man. I guess maybe it's just it's in my nature. I'm a millennial, so we always get hated on. So I always love, the new underdog coming in and taking out the old dog. So I think I take the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes over Tom Brady. It's good for Tom. He's done it all, and he's doing it with another team now. But I always like the new guy. I don't know. I always kind of root for the underdog. So I feel like if that's Mahomes, then I'll be rooting for him. But I mean, Brady's a GOAT as well. So it's hard to say. I just want to see a good game.
Absolutely. Well, this interview is going to go out after the Super Bowl showing, so that people will already know. And it'd be interesting to see. But you touched on Conor McGregor there. What's the significance of Conor McGregor in your life right now?
So obviously he just fought, I think, last weekend or the weekend before now, against Dustin Poirier for the second time. And prior to that, he launched a training app. It's called Conor McGregor FAST, FAST, which is a training app that you can get on any of your stores, Android or iOS. And I was on that. That was pretty cool. I was one of the featured coaches that was actually in some of the coach-led workouts. So there's a number of different things on the program. You can do some workouts like with Conor, got him doing some movements. There's some stuff that you can kind of do on your own, or they have these kind of like on-demand workouts, right? So you can throw it up on your TV, throw it up on your phone, throw some headphones on. You can even choose your own music, and then you have a coach actually coaching you and leading you through the entirety of the workout. So I was fortunate enough to get picked, and a friend of mine who was part of the project called me up. He's like, "Hey man," he's like, "we're struggling to find good people for this." He's like, "I think you'll be perfect for it at UN." And he told me about it. I was like, "Yeah, you know what? Let's give it a crack." So that was pretty cool. So I went to a film studio up in LA for 2 days, and we knocked out all the filming for that. That was a cool experience. I've never done anything like that. So I rocked up, and there's a 29-foot stage with, like a 12-person sound and film crew. I was like, I felt like I was on a movie set, and they're there to make me look good because I'm front and center being the coach, like doing a thing. So a couple of times I kind of had to like pinch myself, and like not get tongue tied and be like, just act like I knew what I was doing. So it's kind of, like you said earlier, that kind of like fake it till you make it, or, this type of thing. So it was cool though. But I guess that's the significance. Just being involved with that project was really cool.
I love that. I remember seeing Conor talk about his fast program as he was preparing to fight Mayweather. I think he was doing a lot of it. And what are the basic, I won't say the word principles, but it's methods. What are some of the methods behind the fast program?
Yeah, definitely. So FAST is a head coach that Conor works with. I believe two fellows that he works with that are very big and have come from triathlon training, so very, very big in the cardiovascular world. And so basically, he started training with those coaches, I believe, after one of the Nate fights. I think after the fight he lost with Nate, to just improve his fitness. And so basically, they kind of created this system that's like red, green, and orange. And so basically, these three zones are different training zones throughout the week and throughout the training program that you focus on. So green being like long, slow distance cardio, improving your overall cardiovascular fitness. Orange being functional strength. So just improving like strength overall. So not your typical like bodybuilding style strength, which I think a lot of people are still stuck in that like method of training. And then the red one is like maximum heart rate. So that's when you're trying to get your heart rate up as high as you can. It's absolutely balls to the wall. And as you can imagine, especially with MMA fighters, that's one of the biggest things for those guys is getting their heart rate up really, really high and being able to maintain it without losing your breath and kind of without losing your technique and stuff like that. So the whole entire system of McGregor FAST is based around those three different categories, and then just kind of tinkering with it and tailoring it, to fit into your fight camp and your training camp and stuff like that, which is all through the app. So I think I did one orange zone workout and then 3 red zone workouts. So I was absolutely gassed. I think I put a couple pictures on my Instagram. You can see I was just sweat pouring from my face, because the hard part for me, right? Like I'm getting it worse than everybody. I got 2 athletes on either side of me. They're just sitting there quiet doing the workouts. I'm doing the workout and talking and coaching through it the entire time as well. So it's like, my energy output is like 5 times everybody else's. So a couple of times, I got to stop and coach them for a second, try to, fake like I'm talking, but I'm really just trying to catch my breath and be like, all right, here we go again, So that was something new for me, something a little different. But in saying that, I guess all last year during the first part of quarantine, we put all of our members onto an online platform, and that's basically how we're running our live workouts. Everybody, just tunes into a Zoom call. We crank up the tunes, through the computer, and then, boom, I'm going through a workout. So it's kind of cool to have never done anything like that before last year and do it, almost every day, twice a day for that 3 months that we were really shut down here in LA. And then all of a sudden at the end of the year, have that skill that I'd now essentially learned or taught myself, have it applied to this massive platform, through Conor McGregor, which was kind of wild.
I love it. Such envy for this. Is it Hermosa Beach? And LA is one of my favorite places I've ever been. And nice. I do see your stories, and every now and again I have to put my eyes over the budgie smugglers. That's
the Australian in me for sure. Americans don't understand the whole budgie at all.
It's amazing. How would someone describe your coaching style? So they were observing you. Are you at the front? There's loads of memes going around about Peloton instructors, what they're like. What's your coaching style?
Oh man, that's a good question. I guess personally, I would always love to say like anything in life is lead by example. So like if I'm doing a workout and I'm leading people through a workout, I'm going harder than everybody doing the
Mm,
workout. It's like if
mm,
I always set the bar and if I set the standard, then everybody else has something to follow. So it's like even these classes that I do here daily, it's the same thing. I'll have, a member try to call me out or like, if we're doing box jumps and they're like, oh, I can beat your box jump. All right, triple it, and then I'll finish it. So like stuff like that. Always got to set the bar. And so that's kind of how I earned the nickname Boss. Especially my last name is Bousson. It gets just absolutely butchered all the time.
mm.
And so just the you got cut out and somehow Boss stuck. But that's always the fun part now. People are like, oh, you got to beat Boss. So here's the standard. Like I said, I always try to kind of lead the way. So yeah, I'm not really sure though. I don't know. I would hope my athletes also agree with that.
what
But you
does
never
the
know.
what does the phrase "always better than yesterday" mean to you?
I mean, just that always getting better than yesterday. It's something that we talk about in sport a lot, and especially at the highest levels.
Yeah.
1% better than the day before. So it's like whatever it was that you did yesterday, that's now in the bank. That's now done. It's in the past.
Mm,
There's nothing you can do about it. What can you do to improve upon that, right? And so if you're constantly striving to get better, then there's just constant growth and constant improvement. And I think that's not just important for like health and fitness and training. I think it's important for all aspects of life. Just like as a person or becoming more empathetic, being more understanding of people, being able to listen better. I think
mm,
especially in today's day and age, a lot of people listen to reply rather than listen to listen, if that makes sense.
mm.
So for me, that's it's kind of a mantra or a moniker that I always try to live. Whether it's something that I say or again just kind of like leading by example. I'm always trying to get better than yesterday. If I did something yesterday and I'm doing it again today, I want to improve on it. I want to make it better. I want to get more people involved. I want the people that are doing it to get more out of it or whatever it is. Just always looking for that kind of constant growth and just constant improvement in all aspects of everything, I guess.
Yeah, love it, and this is why I'm drawn to you and your content, and
I appreciate it.
love what you represent, my friend. And I'd just be honoured if you could leave us with a final thought from your good self.
So one of my favorite quotes of all time is "Tradition is the enemy of progress." I think,
Hmm.
especially in today's day and age, that's something that we need to take a look at. A lot of the traditions that we've had as a society, it's time to scrap them and start building new and better ones that make things more accessible to more people, make things more understandable for more people, all those kind of things. So yeah, I guess that'd be my last kind of final thought: is tradition is the enemy of progress. So
Mm.
let's and in the spirit of collaboration and innovation, that's the only way that we're all going to get better and continue to improve things, I think.
Love it, my friend. It's amazing to connect. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. No, hey, appreciate you having me on.